Cummins Engines has proudly announced their latest series of engines, and it's called an Acumen engine, and it's part of what they're calling their efficiency series, which basically how it works is, to my understanding, is that you can now connect Cummins' newest engine, and they're going to be available in Freightliners. You can connect them, the owner can connect the engine to his iPhone. And from his iPhone, he can dial the horsepower and the torque up or down, the speed limit. He can control the parameters of the engine from his iPhone. So what we're talking about here, really, is company trucks that dispatchers can control from the office, which right away that gives me kind of an uncomfortable feeling. So the dispatcher, or whoever has control of the phone, can control how much speed you get or how much horsepower you get. They decide, and they help. It's helped by a GPS system. So the GPS system says, oh, he's on an on-ramp. You better give him more fuel. And then you can give the truck more fuel on the on-ramp and then cut the thing back when it gets up to cruising speed on the highway. And I'm thinking, my God, what will they think of next to muck up the truck driver? So here's a guy out in Wyoming with a low horsepower engine, sees a hill coming, decides he's going to put his foot into it to get up the hill a little better so he's not dropping gears all over the place. But the company dispatcher with the iPhone says, oh, you don't need fuel right now, and says, nope. Or you're out to pass. And the company dispatcher decides, oh, you don't need to be going that fast, and he hits nope on the cell phone. And there you are, just buggered. And I'm thinking, when I'm reading this article, I'm thinking, can they take the fun out of trucking anymore?
And someone made a comment, and so can any hacker get into it too.
Yeah, and that's, everybody, the carriers, all overlook this hacking problem. Nobody really wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to deal with that. But I'm thinking, is this really going the right direction? And when they've got such a driver turnover problem as it is, do you think there's one thing about this new technology that's going to help keep drivers? Absolutely not. It's just a train wreck out there. And
someone commented, bribe the dispatcher to get more horsepower.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's been going on, not for years, not for horsepower so much, but for good loads.
Norm Woods comments, amazed at how many used trucks with Cummins are on the lots and rebuilt between 400,000 and 700,000 K. Yeah,
that's interesting. And are we talking about? I'm sure we're talking about the red motors there, because they're not rebuilding them because they want to. It's because they've had all sorts of issues. And I've had friends with those engines.
Norm comments, yes, the red motors, only one in the market that they will rebuild more than once.
Huh? Yeah, that's interesting. Cummins has made some great engines in its day, like the 350, the big cams, Series Cummins, really good motors. Not, you could set them up so they produce horsepower, but not a whole lot of horsepower out of the factory, but reliable as all hell. And it's kind of sad to see, but it's not just Cummins that's had this struggle. Most of Cummins' issues are with the emission stuff and stuff that is affected by the emissions. So it's kind of sad to see Cummins sliding from they were like a number one contender for years. Now they're in my books, they're in number 3 spot.
JR and WV, not sure if it's better now, but the ISX Cummins seem to have a lot of cam issues. I've never had anything newer than an 855, and that's part of the reason why.
Yeah, and that's right, cam issues as well. And it's so bad now that I was watching a YouTube truck salesman, and I think he was out in Colorado the other day, and he was saying that because a lot of the trucks now you can only get like with a PACCAR or a Cummins, and the salesman was literally trying to convince potential buyers that the new Cummins had improved from what they had been because their reputation was so sullied. But now he felt better about the Cummins motors as an option. And I'm thinking, oh man, that's a statement right there.
Container Guru comments that the Cummins went down after the N14.
Yeah, he's exactly correct. I completely agree with that. I completely agree. And I had N14 motors, and the only reason I got away from them was because my dealer here, my Cummins dealer up here where I live, jerked me around on a warranty claim. And then at the same time, I had the Lettuce King yelling in my ear to get a cat. And that was why I switched, because Cummins let me down on a warranty claim, and Cat had amazing warranty coverage at the time.
Grilled Mortal comments, was not impressed with the 400 Cummins. Yep, cam issues, 1983.
Oh, really? You had an issue in 83 with a cam? The one I had a warranty issue with was an 84, and it pulled down the liner, and I ended up having to pay for that myself when it should have been warranty. And that was where I got into it with Cummins. But for the most part, they were really good.
Jay Holzer, 1989. The new X Series Cummins is much more reliable platform than the older ISX.
Well, that's good to hear, because God knows Cummins needed some help. They had to do some work there. And, I think essentially the block is pretty good, and the internal workings of the motor. But, still, it's got more issues than it should have for a motor that, when you look at the build price of the engine on a truck, that you're paying almost $100,000 just for the motor,
Clayton Wolf, 1983 400 is a big cam 3. Big cam 1 and 2 are better.
Yes, that's yeah. I completely agree with that. That's right. He's absolutely right. Kathy and I rebuilt our big cam Cummins, the one for the 1984 big cam Cummins. We did an in-frame on it, and that motor was $6,000, and I had the shop do it, and for $6,000. And I talked to Kath the other day about doing an in-frame on mine. There's, it's still running, but I'm thinking, geez, maybe I should put some money into it. And Kat wants $40,000 to in-frame my 475, and I'm thinking, man, but my truck doesn't work, so I'm not going to do that, because it seems with the ISX, there were some really good ones and some really bad ones. So I'd like to know how yours has been for you, and what kind of miles are on it right now, because some of those motors, some of those guys that have them just rave by those, and other guys have had all sorts of trouble. So you never know for sure what to believe. And they make a 605 ISX now, which is supposed to be a pretty good motor, but it's just, time will tell. There aren't very many out there. Huh. SoCal Sandman says absolutely, meaning I'm assuming that means that he's had really good luck with the motor. So that's good to hear, because I don't know about you, but reliability was.
He says it's his second one.
Also, he had good experience already once, and he's bought it again. So yeah, so obviously, because that's so important. That's so important if you own the truck. And it's like anything else. There are good ones and bad ones out there.
Elite Truckers, which motor would you choose if you had to choose between a Cummins X15 and the Detroit DD15?
I'd take the DD15 in a heartbeat, just because they're more of them are reliable. But it's a hell of a crapshoot. I'd pick the Detroit just because they have a better track record. Anyway, you guys, take care. Keep the rubber side down. We'll see you on the back haul. Have a good, safe night, everyone. Bye-bye.